Larentia. She is the Scarlet Woman of Rome. Acca Larentia is a Roman goddess who is most famous for being the foster mother of the mythical twins Romulus and Remus. She is an earth goddess and protectress, and the divine ancestress of Rome, associated with wolves, the underworld, and the fertility of the earth and fields. In a late but widely known legend, Acca Larentia is the wife of Faustulus, a shepherd to the king of the time, who found the abandoned infants Romulus and Remus being miraculously nursed by a she-wolf. They were really sons of the god Mars, who had come to their mother, the Vestal Virgin Rhea Silvia, in the form of a wolf. Faustulus took them home to his wife, who then acted as their wet nurse. Acca Larentia and Faustulus had had 12 sons, since one of them had died. Romulus took his place. These 12 brothers, under the supervision of their mother, sacrificed annually in the fields, the Arve, to bring fertility to the crops, and were said to be the foundation of the 12-man brotherhood of the Arval priests. Sometimes Romulus and Remus are said to have been nursed by the wolf goddess Lupa, or Luperca. She was identified with Acca Larentia. In this version, Luperca's husband is the wolf, and shepherd god Lupercus, who brought fertility to the flocks, and through his rapport with the wolves, kept them from harming the sheep. The Lupercalia was the festival of Lupercus, and was concerned with fertility and purification of both the flocks and the city of Rome. Wolves and sheep come up a lot in these legends concerning and glorifying the origins of Rome, for the city was believed to have been founded by a clan of shepherds who settled on the Palatine Hill, and Romulus and Remus were shepherd kings. I have been reading from thaliatuk.com, OGOD/AccalaRentia.php. This is at mythos.fandom.com. Mars, the god of war, was attracted to Rhea Silvia. He swooped down in the night and raped her. She bore him 2 sons, Romulus and Remus. When Amulius found out about this, he ordered Rhea Silvia buried alive for breaking her vow of celibacy. Now, it doesn't mention it here, but Amulius is a Samiel character, and he also orders the death of the 2 young infants, and this is how they end up abandoned and then found by Faustulus and Acca Larentia. Now, Acca Larentia, you may know there's something funny about her name, and it's a reconstruction of Alexandra, or something along those lines. And so much of what I've found having to do with the Roman aspects and Greek aspects as well of Christianity are in fact rooted in a tradition which is Alexandrian. And I don't mean to say that's from Alexander the Great or from Alexandria, Egypt, but I'm talking about a tradition which is larger and much older than that. That is of Alexander being either a reputed historical king or mythic king or some other hero character in different guises, forms of Hercules, and that sort of stuff. Even the historical Alexander had apparently patterned a lot of his styling on particular heroes and gods, including Hercules and Achilles. So this is the kind of stuff that people went in for, these culture heroes who could, under the right circumstances, even become a high god, as in the case of Bel Melkart, for instance, who is a Baal, a city god, which carried a lot of weight in Tyre. So the differences between high gods and lower characters and even god men and that sort of thing, all it takes is the right myth, and if they get divinized and that sort of thing, well, there you have it then. So they're gods now. But it's this is the idea that people always had, where they pictured heaven's residents as being much like themselves in many ways, and having kingdoms and and that sort of stuff, and rulerships and political problems, even on Mount Olympus and things like that. So, this is all in keeping with the standard mythographic tradition that has gone on since the first metropolitan cities of ancient Mesopotamia and the other ancient centers that were urbanized. There is always a contrast between the city and the country, between civilization and the wild, and this you'll see as a constant throughout a lot of people's religious myth, that we get the myth of the city to an extent, and it shows often what happens to the country people that come into it and how they are caught like fish out of water and being bamboozled by the city slickers. And you will find that the rumors about Magdalene being a prostitute and then being somehow reformed and becoming a patroness of the church, a woman of substance, also fits Acca Larentia's myth. And now I am back at the Thalia Tuk site having a look at this. In another tale, Acca Larentia is a notorious and beautiful prostitute who was shut up in the temple of Hercules overnight. There she dreamed that Hercules came to her and promised a gift from the first man she met the next morning. Accordingly, the next day she met a wealthy man who fell in love with her and married, leaving his great fortune to her at his death. At her own death, she bequeathed the fortune to the city of Rome. In a variation of the same tale, Acca Larentia gains the wealth not through marriage, but through her own career as a prostitute, in which she is known as Lupa, or she-wolf, and that was ancient slang for a prostitute. It was Roman slang. In either case, the people of Rome were so grateful to her that they instituted a festival on December 23rd. Notice how all this is almost Christmas. Okay, called the Larentia. Just a side note here, the Larentia, these gods of the larder, is who the Lares were. And we call this the pantry. And so Lupercus, he has this goat man type persona, as does Faunus, if he's her husband, or Faustulus, as they also call him. And so Pan is right there next to her as her husband. YouTube.com/C/MagicJesus.